Welcome to the episode number 4 of Discover with Sbenati. This is the podcast where I go around and discover the local talent and other talents around. Today we have a very, very special guest. Her name is Najwa Zebian. I'm sure a lot of you know her, and if you are not following her, you're missing out. Najwa Zebian, without any further ado, how are you?
Thank you. I'm good. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Very well. So, Najwa, we were talking before this podcast started how we don't actually know each other too well before then.
Yeah.
But I knew of you and I met you before. And I kind of tried to juggle your memory to see whether or not you actually remember that day. And it was back in 2013 where it was the RIS, the Reviving the Islamic Spirit Conference. And then I basically went up to you, but back then you were wearing the hijab. And ironically you're wearing green. I still remember that. So green must be your favorite color?
It's not, but
It's not?
I don't remember what
Yeah, I know.
like that day.
I don't blame you because I'm sure you've seen a ton of people
Yeah.
by now.
Yeah.
So I don't blame you at all. But I do remember that you were very timid and shy.
I was like that.
Yes. And now, like in contrast to that day, like day and night, seriously, it's like you went from this shy person, even though I didn't know you too well, like I do have a little bit of a glimpse of how you were. And you were not this like outgoing person where you're just talking to people left, right, and center. You were basically just to yourself.
Yeah.
So back in 2013, if you can just, go back to that moment. How would you describe yourself back then as opposed to right now from the point of how you interact with people?
I used to be very quiet and very observant at all times, and I don't think that I believed that I had any value to add, and so I would just stay quiet. I don't think I saw myself as like relevant to people. And even like within circles in university, I used to be the one that just tags along and rarely has anything to add to the conversation. It was just me listening to people. And yeah, looking back, I think it was because I didn't have any self-esteem or self-worth, and it was easier to just not even try than try.
Okay.
Yeah, but now it's different now.
And how's that different?
It's different because even though I have much less people in my life, I know what kind of value I bring to the relationships that I have and to the acquaintances that I have with people. And if I choose not to speak, it's because I'm choosing not to speak, not because I don't think that I have value to add.
Right.
It's because I just don't think that there's, either.
You're very selective.
I'm very selective
in the way that you're going to speak, and to who you speak.
Before, I wasn't selective. Before, I was more, again, I just didn't see myself as anyone who added value, so I just stayed quiet. That's it. So if you came up to me to say hi, I probably assumed, oh, he's just saying hi because he's nice, not because he wants to say hi to me,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you kind of just saw yourself as just someone else as opposed to someone who could add value to someone.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, though, you're writing.
Yes.
Okay.
That was the year, actually. If it was 2013, that was the year that I started teaching. And
Okay.
that would have been a year where I was already writing, or I was beginning to write.
Oh, okay.
That's when I started writing again, when I started teaching.
Okay.
So I probably was writing,
Okay.
but still keeping those writings private or only sharing them with a select group of people.
Okay, so you were sharing them. Because
Started with first they were just mine.
That's right.
In my journal.
That's right.
And I started a blog, and I didn't share that blog with people I knew, and it didn't have my name anywhere.
Okay.
And then after a while, I started sharing like things on Facebook, and then people said, you need to put this into a book, and so I did.
Okay.
Yeah, but it started off as just me writing my own thoughts. And
Okay. And how often would you write? Like how often would you?
day.
Every day.
It was, honestly, if there isn't proof that your passion somehow leads you at some point, this would be proof, because I was teaching full-time that year, and I was doing my master's full-time.
Yeah.
And those are two, like, as a full-time teacher.
That's actually a big load.
Teacher,
That's a big load. That is a big load.
Let alone doing your master's full-time. And I would come home, and I lived at home at the time, and I would just sit and write for like 3 hours. That's what I wanted to do. Before I ate, before I did anything, I gravitated towards the pen and paper, and I would write, and I just had to get it off my chest. And then I would stay awake until like 2, 3, 4 a.m. sometimes to plan for the next day or to finish my assignments for my master's, and sleep for a couple of hours and wake up the next day. And yeah,
wow.
My only form of relief or release was writing.
It was your catharsis.
Yeah.
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 Like that's when you purged everything.
Yeah.
You put everything on paper.
Yeah. That was my way of like, I don't know, what do you do when you want to feel like you've expressed yourself somehow, or that you've been heard or listened to or seen? What do? You probably, I don't know.
Writing is definitely one of the methods.
So,
definitely one of the methods. Yeah.
So for me, it was just writing. Like people they find comfort in different things.
Right.
For some people it's working out, for some people it's eating, for some people it's going out with friends. For me, it was writing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And you kept writing every single day.
Yeah.
Until what point did you realize I have something? Like this is something that I have.
Yeah.
Because I did follow you through the journey.
Okay.
But I wanna get it. Yeah, I did. But I wanna get it from you though, because the thing is that what I saw, and you can interject at any point, is that you're profusely writing, like a lot, to the point where it was hard to keep up.
Yeah.
Right. And it was something like where's she getting all these ideas from? It's true. And then
I was writing a lot.
Right.
I do remember
Right.
that.
And then at what point did it? Like, do you notice a point where it just kind of clicked, and you kind of like, okay, this means something.
That my writings were like worth
valuable.
It? Okay. I think every time someone would reach out and say something like, "Oh my God, thank you for saying that," because that's how I've been feeling, and I didn't know how to write it or put it into words. Or when I would see the difference it would make for a person, like in person. And so in a way it was like, it gave me validation because someone out there was saying, this feeling exists. And at the same time, I was giving them validation because I was saying this feeling exists, and this is what it feels like exactly. So it's like this beautiful feeling of community that I hadn't felt before, because I always thought that my feelings made me too sensitive or something was wrong with me.
So you were judging yourself so much that you thought other people were going to think the same thing.
Well, I mean, to a certain extent, I did share my writings, right? So maybe I was overcoming that judgment in some way and saying, I don't care. Because I think you hit a certain period in your life where you think, well, if people aren't going to accept me for who I am, then why do I want them to accept me in the first place?
Right.
And so it becomes...
And you write a lot about
that. It's like a series of...
Yeah.
I don't give a crap about what people think.
Yeah.
Little moments until you get to a point where you look back and you say, you know, thank God that I thought that in that moment and that I pushed myself to publish that piece of writing instead of
hiding it.
Yeah, instead of saying this means something bad about me and I just don't want to release it to
let me take you back. Let me take you back to that initial spot where you said that you felt that there was some kind of community.
Yeah.
Okay, did you think to yourself at that point, because you said that when I first introduced myself to you at that phase, you were thinking that maybe you couldn't add any value to people, you thought that people were just being nice to you, and that's why they were saying hi. So would you think that when someone was reaching out to you because you're writing, they're just being nice, as opposed to them actually being authentic with their reaching out?
I think it depended on whether I knew the person or not. I think I accepted praise and compliments from people if I didn't know them.
Okay.
Because that just meant that they meant what they said. Like they really have nothing to gain or lose. Whereas if it was someone that I knew, I think I would be skeptical because I just like at that point in my life, you could have told me I love you and I wouldn't have believed it because I just didn't think that I deserved something like that.
Okay.
And so if someone told me, you know, I like your work, and they knew me as a person, I probably thought they're just saying it because they don't want to hurt my feelings.
Okay.
Like,
Right.
that's just how so it depended whether it was a stranger or not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's awesome. So, but the thing is, it's still amazing. Seriously, it's
Thank
still amazing. The transformation
Thank
you've gone through. I've, you know, like, just looking through your journey and how you started just simply just writing, and then you went on camera, TED Talk, then you started getting more and more exposure.
Yeah.
I thought that was fascinating. Seriously, I thought that was phenomenal. Talk to me about how, because you didn't used to public speak.
No.
So how?
To be terrified.
Yeah,
of
right.
presentations in university.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I got from you when I was talking to you back
Yeah.
in 2013.
Yeah.
So how do you go from someone who like, you know, doesn't like to speak in public, and now you're speaking in public on a regular basis, and you're going to, like, you know, signing book deals, you have, you know, different conferences where you go to, you have interviews, how do you go from that to that?
I think it was a journey of, instead of seeing myself as how does the world see me, and how am I going to conform to make sure that the world sees me in a way that I want them to see me.
Okay.
It was more like, I'm going to be who I am, and it's not up to me whether they accept me or not. So instead of, for example, I'll take you back to when I was in university. If I had a presentation, I would be terrified because I'm thinking, they're going to think I'm too soft-spoken. They're going to think that I don't know what I'm talking about. They're going to think that I didn't
Prejudgment.
presentation.
Gotcha.
They're going to think that, without thinking, what am I doing here? Like, what is the purpose of this? It was more the stress of the outward judgment that would come in. And I'll take you back to a very recent speech that I made 2 or 3 days ago. 2 or 3 days ago. Yes. That didn't even cross my mind. It was more like,
Wow.
I just have to be me, and that's it. My biggest struggle is not, when I public speak now, is not what are they going to think of me. My biggest struggle is,
What value are you?
make sure that what you're saying is going to actually constructively help someone. Because when you talk about feelings and emotions and pain and trauma and triggers, it's easy sometimes to put someone in a negative place. So you have to be very careful with validating them, but not saying it's okay that you're in the dark place and stay there. Like, you're in the dark place, I validate you.
Now get out of it.
Exactly.
Right.
So it's not about their judgment, it's about me genuinely wanting to help them. Yeah.
So, in terms of help,
Yeah.
I noticed that in a lot of your writings, if not the majority of them, there's a lot of past tense, right? So it's like you're looking backward.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone asked you that question before, but I was wondering, if you're always looking backward and focusing on that perspective, how can you shift forward and move forward?
I do believe that one of the biggest mistakes we make in healing is that we don't focus on understanding the pain. We just want to reach a point where we're fully healed. And so we ignore what we went through, but acknowledge that we are in pain. And instead of working through the pain backwards to actually elevate ourselves, we work from where we are. And that, to a certain extent, is not productive because it denies what you went through. And it just focuses on that end place that you want to be in. So I'll give you an example. If you're listening to a motivational speech at some point and someone tells you, you know, right now I'm making millions of dollars and I've done this and I've done that. And, you know, someone in the audience might say, I want to be there. Like, I want to overcome this story, whatever it is, and I want to be there. But you can't work towards being somewhere if you haven't understood what happened to you. So in Sparks of Phoenix, I say, you have to own your pain just as you're owning your healing. You have to own that pain, and to own that pain happened in the past. You're feeling it now, but the reason you're feeling it is the past. And unless you go back and resolve, try to understand what happened, you will not be at peace with yourself, because in the present moment, you're either blaming yourself or blaming someone or just numbing with something, whether it's a self-development course or a self-help book or whatever it is. You have to go back and try to understand yourself and try to understand the situation so you don't carry that baggage with you. Does that make sense?
It does. So what I'm trying to understand is that, so you look back at the things that cause you trouble.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you try to identify with that. And then after you identify with that, you kind of basically, you make amends with the past.
Yeah.
And then that will help
So that
you
you're not carrying
move
it with you.
to the future.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's why I wrote these mountains that you were carrying, you're only supposed to climb.
Right.
Because you do carry baggage with you from the past if you don't resolve it. You do. Whether you like it or not, I don't care what anybody says. If you went through an experience of, for example, rejection in the past, and you didn't reflect on it, you're filing it in your mind under, I was rejected because I'm not worthy, or I was rejected because I'm not pretty enough, or handsome enough, or I was rejected because, I don't know, because I didn't do this or didn't do that. But if you don't go back and reflect, first of all, as an insider to the story, but also as an outsider looking in, you're going to carry it with you. And every new experience, you're going to say, well, this is not the first time it's happened. But if you've resolved the first time or second time or third time it happened, then this new experience is perceived as a new experience, not as one that confirms all the other ones.
Okay. So how do you separate yourself from being focused on something and stuck in the past? As opposed to focusing on, because I mean, wherever our focus goes, energy flows. Right? So if we're focused on the past, then our energy won't be able to flow in the forward direction towards where we're trying to get to.
So if you're consciously focused on the past, right? That's what you're meaning right now. If you're consciously focused on the past, then you're not going to move forward. But what if you say, I'm consciously not focused on the past, but subconsciously I am? Right? If you don't resolve something from your past, subconsciously you are focused on it in some way. Trust me.
So let's say someone feels rejected, okay, or dejected, like they don't feel like they belong in a certain society.
Yeah.
How would someone be able to?
Please don't come here. Sorry.
You don't like chipmunks?
Terrifying.
They're like, it's just a friendly atmosphere.
Yeah, no, we're not in like Cinderella here.
That's funny.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, it's okay.
Take that out.
It's okay. It's okay.
Okay, ask that again.
Oh, so you don't like little creepy crawlers?
No, I have a hard time managing humans. I don't want to do that. Yeah. Okay.
So, if someone feels dejected or rejected, okay, I think everyone feels that at some point in their life.
Of course, yeah.
How does someone get over that feeling if they're not going to basically ditch that feeling or put it aside or basically just purge it, just let go of it, and then just keep going forward?
So if you went through an experience where someone rejected you, right? How are you supposed to not view rejection as rejection if you don't reflect on it? How are you supposed to redefine it if you don't go back and say, oh, maybe it's not that he rejected me, maybe it wasn't meant to be, maybe he wasn't in the right place, maybe he wasn't ready, maybe I actually deserve better. You wouldn't know that unless you go back and reflect on it, period. That's it. I'm not saying go back to the past to be stuck in it. Go back to redefine it. Like
to make it more clear to yourself as to what happened.
The beginning of the story is never. I mean, sometimes, but most times it's not in your hands, but the ending is. So you start with whatever that beginning is, which could be, oh, someone rejected me. But you're going to work towards saying that's not what it was. Like maybe part of me also rejected that person because we were not meant to be. Or a job. I didn't get that job because I was supposed to get a better one, or right?
Right.
You have to go back.
And that goes along the same lines as what you say. You said something like, you said the destruction that happened to you, or demolition is right, but your reconstruction is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought that was very like on
Thank
point.
you. Yeah. Life will break you in many ways, and people will break you in many ways, and power will break you in many ways, and feelings will break you in many ways, and that's not something you can control. It's not. As much as people say, well, no, if you're confident and you're a human being and you have a heart and you're gonna feel, and whether you project to the world that you're being broken or feeling down or not is not the definition of what you're actually going through. It's what you're actually feeling on the inside. So the world will break you.
Right.
And that's not in your hands, but to make the decision to get back up from that broken place, that's a decision that you make.
Right.
And it is in your hands.
Right.
And the way that you reconstruct your life is 100% in your hands if you take that ownership.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the key. The key is to take ownership.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like after going through an experience of rejection, for example, you could either continue being the same person that you are and allowing people to treat you the same way that you've allowed them before, or you can continue to not draw healthy boundaries, or you can continue to pour yourself into whatever relationship you get into, or you could take some time. Like this is something that really bothers me when people break up and then 2 months later you hear that they're both in a new relationship, and you're just like, did you take time to understand what happened? Like, I mean, some people end up getting married from relationships like that. I'm not saying that it's always wrong, but you need to take time to understand why that relationship didn't work, and what kinds of things you need to work on within yourself to make sure that you don't make the same mistakes that you made in the past one. But if your goal is just to be with someone, you're not going to learn. You're going to fall back into the same patterns, right? So I forgot the point I was trying to make, but I was trying to make a point, is that you need to, the experiences that you go through, you need to reflect on them, and in order to reconstruct yourself, you're gonna have to come to terms with, maybe that person took advantage of me, and this is not victim blaming in any way, I don't mean it that way, but maybe that person took advantage because I didn't know how to draw healthy boundaries. Not that it gives them the right to take advantage, but for my own sake, I didn't draw healthy boundaries around myself. So I need to start drawing healthy boundaries, and that takes time. You don't wake up one morning and say, I mean, we do wake up one morning and say, I'm not going to allow this to happen anymore. But does it happen right away? No, it takes time and it takes steps, right?
Just like there's no overnight success, right? There's no overnight healing.
No.
Right. So you're saying about time.
Yeah.
Okay, and I don't think, to be honest, I don't think you lost your point. You're making you're making a point. I was trying to get you to get back to the focus,
Yeah.
but you never lost your point.
Good.
Because we were talking about how to mend things from the past and move forward.
Yeah.
So you're saying that now things take time. Okay, so you're saying 2 months is not enough time. I'm just wondering, just curiosity.
It depends on how long you were in a relationship before that. Like, say you were in a long-term relationship, like 6 years or 7 years, and then you break up with someone, and then 2 months later you're with someone else. You haven't really taken time to yourself, and there's a big possibility that this new person that you're with is a rebound. And I just don't think that it's healthy for you to just jump into something that quickly.
Okay.
I mean, you could be dating new people.
Yeah.
But to say I am in a relationship with someone who I've completely fallen in love with.
To establish a commitment in such a short period of time after a long-term relationship.
Doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Because you can't know a person in 2 months and know that you've fallen in love with them in 2 months and know that you're in a relationship with them in 2 months, and it just doesn't.
Okay.
It's not
I get you. I get you.
Yeah.
I get you. So the whole journey here is that what I'm trying to get to is that the way that you're writing is very, very it's very, very poignant. And it hits the soul because it's super deep, but also very basic in terms of that anyone can relate to it. And I'm sure you can find that. Like, it doesn't take someone like to just be in like the zone for them to actually relate with your writings, right? And I find that to be magical. Like just the actual, the way that you write and the way that it interacts with people is something phenomenal. I think yes. Now there are a lot of other people that write. This is this is the age of everyone wants to be exposed as much as possible. How has your writing been so different than someone who writes something similar to you, and led you to be exposed, or led you to be so connected to people but not them? What is that ingredient?
I think it's the fact that I don't write to please anyone, or I don't write with the intention of saying, oh, I think this will get more likes or this will get more sales. I write genuinely to express myself. I don't focus on that, and I've stuck to it. And I think that when you are genuine and authentic, people pick up on that. People know whether you're just trying to throw words out there that have no meaning and just to get them to, to like it, or when you're coming from the heart. And I try my best to be exposed to people in a vulnerable kind of way, not in a way that's like, give me your attention. Some people these days are confusing. How do I say this without like offending anyone?
Oh, you won't offend anybody. Just say it.
I feel that people know now that when you show certain parts of your life or your vulnerabilities in certain ways, that social media likes that. So they will do it for the intention of getting social media's attention.
Okay.
And there's a difference between being vulnerable to get that and genuinely being vulnerable, not caring whether you're going to get that or not. And I always focus on honestly and genuinely being vulnerable that way, because that's how I am in my everyday life. Like, I think this is the first time that you and I actually have a conversation.
Of course.
And I don't know whether... I'm sure you're going to leave thinking, like, this is the Najwa that I see on social media. I'm not a different person.
No.
This is me.
Yeah.
I don't put on a face that, like, fits with my brand. My brand is me as a person.
That's right.
Me.
Of course. Of course.
Like, there is no one word to describe.
Of course,
right?
Of course, yeah. No, there's nothing in terms of like me like having a surprise.
Yeah.
Like I go, oh, who's this person?
Yeah.
No, yeah, you're the exact same person. That's
exactly. Yeah. So I think that's it. That's what differentiates me from others. I mean, others define their own vulnerability in their own way, and everybody deserves a certain kind of attention and exposure. But from my experience, I do my very best never to say, I want to be like that person. I want to get the same attention as that person.
Okay.
My goal is to reach more.
So in terms of, because you talked about, seeing yourself ahead of where you are right now. Okay, so you're picturing your own self.
Yeah.
And then you're moving yourself towards that position. You're not looking at someone else saying, I want to be there.
Yeah.
Is there someone that you look up to where you're like, I would like to be kind of in that, like I'd like to move in that direction, not to be that person, but I want to move in that direction. Do you have someone like that, someone who motivates you?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't.
Okay.
No. I look up to a few people from the past, like Princess Diana, and in her ability to be her most vulnerable, authentic self, even though that meant that she was going to be hurt and scrutinized in the public eye, and the fact that she let go of a title as a princess to live an authentic life. is very inspiring to me. So she's one of the people that I look up to. It's not in terms of how much money she had or how much publicity or fame she had, but in terms of her ability to be her most vulnerable self without shame and without letting the possible consequences dictate how she lived her life. And I see my journey as in a way similar to hers in terms of, you know, coming in. Oh my God, it got so like right there. Oh my God.
Okay, yeah, you can go ahead.
Sorry.
No, you're all right. You're all right.
Okay, there is now this one.
Oh, there you go. Thank you.
Let's go, buddy.
Sorry.
Sorry about that.
I mean, it didn't kill me, but.
Oh man, that sucks because you were going through a good train of thought.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
Okay.
Go back. So I'll tell you something.
Yes.
This is actually a better answer.
Tell me.
So you know that I shared my story publicly, and that was probably one of. It was the hardest thing I did in my life, but the most liberating thing I did in my life, because I went from being. And maybe you can attest to this. I don't know how much you knew about me.
I'll tell you in a second.
Tell me.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll tell you in a second. Yeah.
I went from this girl who everyone liked and thought well things of, and thought that I was kind all the time, and I never hurt anybody, and I never. I was just the one person who no one had a bad story about. You know. To go from that to all of a sudden being this terrible person who just ruined someone's life, who all she wants is attention, and to go from that to that was one of the most painful things I experienced, because again, I defined myself by what people said. Like, I defined myself by what people thought of me. And maybe I didn't consciously think that, but obviously I did, for it to hurt me that much, because if I didn't care, then I wouldn't have cared in that moment, that I kind of fell off this, or fell from this image of being perfect girl, like well-mannered girl who was like, you know, what anyone aspires to be, and to go from that to that was painful. And I was getting attacks from people I'd never known, and people were pretending to know me, like, yeah, I knew Najwa 10 years ago, and this is what she did at that time. And I'm like, I don't even know who you are. Like, for people to come out from nowhere and say,
Because they're trying to get attention too.
and then exactly, and then you see their comments, and now everyone is like, the public is drawing an image of me based on what these people who supposedly know me are saying about me. And I just remember, and you know, I had a lot of friends who I lost, a lot of people who respected me at a certain point who I lost, and I was very alone, very, very, very. And I just recently spoke about this 2 or 3 days ago at that same event. I at that point I had moved out from my parents' home, and I was living on my own, and I remember my mom had to come and sleep next to me in my bed and hold my hand, just so that I could feel that I was here, because it was so
It is terrible.
painful.
Of course.
To be getting attacks 24/7, and to see that I was, instead of people looking at the pain that I had gone through, they were just looking for any excuse to say that I'm a terrible person.
And to bring you down.
And I just
That's right.
remember, those times were so difficult that I wasn't sleeping and I wasn't eating, and I just remember like vague, not vague as in I don't remember exactly what happened at the time, but at the time I remember it being, because I was so physically weak, because I'm not eating and I'm not sleeping and I'm allowing all these things to get to me. At night I would feel my mom, for example, like holding onto my hand more tightly because I was having shortness of breath, and she's just trying to remind me of, because what happens is you lose your sensation when you start having shortness of breath because air doesn't reach your extremities. And I just remind her, telling me like, you're here, you're good, and to think that I allowed myself to get to that point based on what people thought of me. I never wish to go back to that point in my life, but that taught me a lot about, there's a quote by Khalil Gibran where he says, what is my use for you during my light times or good times if you weren't there during my dark times? And so after that, any person who tried to come back into my life, no,
obviously,
you don't deserve to come back into my life. You weren't there when I called you and you didn't answer, and you weren't there when you didn't want to be associated with me when I was going through all of this, so you can't be associated with me now, because that shows your true colors. But the point I was getting at was, I got a call from a journalist at the time, and this was not when things were at their worst. This was a few months after.
Okay.
And this journalist said, at first I was very scared when I saw the name, because I was like, oh my God, what's happening now? But I picked up and he just said, I just want to tell you that for me to witness you going from being a loose leaf in the wind, this is his exact words, a loose leaf in the wind, you didn't know what she was, to see you transform into this powerhouse is very inspiring. And that touched me. And when I said that, in a way, Princess Diana's story reminds me of mine, that's what I meant, is that she went from not knowing who she was and being this image of what everybody loved, and even after she got married and had kids, everyone looked at her as she's the one who has the perfect life. And she came out and said, I'm struggling. I've had 5 suicide attempts, or I've attempted suicide 5 times. I have bulimia. And it's not that I'm saying it's inspiring to see people go through that. It's inspiring to see people talk about it.
That's right, because it makes it more real. That's right.
So that's why I mentioned her. And other people that I look up to are every single person who reaches out to me and says, this is what I went through, and this is what I did about it. Because those people don't have the platform that I have. I had a platform when I shared my story. I had people who said, thank you for sharing your story, you're courageous. But these people have no one to cheer them on and say you're courageous. Like a woman who's going through an abusive marriage, or a guy who's going through an abusive relationship or marriage and is trying to get out of it. Or they don't have anyone telling them you're courageous for walking away, and they do it regardless because that's the right thing to do. Those people inspire me too, because that level of courage and authenticity with themselves without looking for external validation is very inspiring. In the age of social media.
Right. So you don't look at celebrities per se, you look at each individual person.
I mean, every celebrities are humans too, and I've met with many of them, and I can tell you that every person has a story that they don't share. Every person has, even if they share their story, there's a chapter they're not sharing. And I think many times celebrities fall into, again, their own brand, and they forget to just live their life as a human being. And so I would look up to certain things in certain people, but there isn't one person that I say I want to be like her or I want to be like him, because I think that in itself is not authentic. Like, I might like something about you, but it doesn't mean that I want to be like you.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's the direction I was heading towards. So you see someone, but I mean, you answered it perfectly.
Yeah.
So you see someone and you're like, well, I like these things about this person that I'd like to see in myself. And so then you project that because it gives you a clear image.
Yeah.
It gives you clarity.
Every time I see vulnerability in any way, which is exposing your heart in some way,
Yeah.
that inspires me.
Right.
But I can pick up on when someone is being vulnerable because they are genuinely that way, or because they are seeking attention, or just wanting the likes and the follows.
And you're getting more and more in tune
done
with that
this.
as you get more and more into this whole business.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a lot of hypocrisy out there.
Oh, I'm sure.
A lot.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
In any kind of sphere, any kind of
Yeah.
business, any kind of atmosphere, there's always
Yeah.
going to be something that you're like, that's not what you said before, and you're acting differently.
Yeah.
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 That's awesome. So you've been on many platforms. You just discussed platforms. You have 3 books now. They're all phenomenal, and I have them all. Okay, so and you'll be signing them.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually dream of writing 1 book, and you're working on your 4th.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's amazing.
Thank you.
Tell me, how does it feel to have your book published? Like, what's that feeling like?
I mean, I never dreamt of being an author, so it's not, I can't tell you it's a dream come true. When I put Mind Platter out there, I put it out there because it was my only voice, and I was in a dark place, and sorry, let me just flip this over. I was in a dark place, and I was like, there was a reflection that I wrote on Facebook around the time that I published Mind Platter. So I was going through a very difficult time, and emotionally, and I went to France to visit my uncle for a week.
Yes.
And I remember it was...
I read that part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you read that one?
I did.
Okay.
Of course.
So now I'm not going to be able to find it, but
Where you said you kept writing, and you needed a break, and so you took a week and you went to France.
yeah.
Yes.
And then I remember before I went to France, I was sitting
In Starbucks, you said.
Starbucks
Yes.
in a corner. Like, I remember that day exactly. And I remember sending out my manuscript to some random editing company in the States. And I was, to the fullest extent of this, what I'm about to say, I was in the darkest place you can imagine someone could be. I literally felt like there's nothing I can lose. This is who I am as a person. And I'm just going to put it out there. And if it helps one person who's in this darkness, that's good enough for me.
That's usually what it takes. Usually it takes someone to be against the wall. They're back against the wall. You have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
You're just going to put it out there.
Yeah, and you either choose to, put yourself out there and say, this is who I am, or you choose to just stay in that spot. And many people choose to stay in that spot, and they stay in that spot because they don't know how much power they have.
Right.
I don't think I knew how much power I had until I tried and put myself out there and took the criticism and took the, even after I published Mind Platter and the Nectar of Pain, I had people telling me, this is just a side job, right? Like, teaching is your most important thing. Like, don't put too much energy into writing. And I'm just like...
And who are these people?
Many close people.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay. So people that were still stuck with you.
Yeah.
Okay, that thought highly of you, still gave you that advice. They told you stick to teaching.
To stick with me means no. There's a different definition of that. You could stick with me physically, like be around me and hang out with me and call me and stay in my life. But to stick with me like in a soul kind of way, where you really do believe in me.
Of course.
And see me for who I am, that's different.
Okay.
So I felt that it was, yeah.
So were they those kind of people? Feel like the soul friends, or were they the people that were physically with you, or were they people that kind of like doubted you from the side?
Soul people were very few.
Okay.
Like very few.
Okay. Like you can count on your bare hands.
Two or three
Okay,
people.
I got you.
But people who even when they were happy that I published the book or whatever, they still didn't see me as an author, like as a person who's achieved something that way. They wanted me to stay on the safe side and keep my full-time
on the 9 to 5. That's right. Okay.
Yeah,
and be safe.
Secure.
That's right.
Yeah, like don't put too much energy. And I think the fact that I wrote a lot about pain, feelings, people don't take these things seriously. So I had to just say, listen, this is who I am.
Right.
So
let me tell you something.
Yeah.
So you asked me about what I knew about you.
Yeah.
So obviously, like, some people started telling me things that are negative about you. The thing with me is that I don't like, so if someone's going to talk about someone and it's negative, I automatically, like, and I do this subconsciously, but I shut it off. Like automatically I shut it off. Like I don't let it interfere with how I'm going to perceive that person. And the reason why I am like that is because I've experienced it myself. Like I've experienced it myself where people have talked bad about me and then I haven't even met that person.
Yeah.
And because the other people have been talking bad about me, that person automatically has a negative viewpoint of me.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, well, dude, like I don't even know you. You know what I mean? Like the majority of things you're hearing is not even true.
Life.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. So when you're telling me I don't know how much you know about me, to me it's like I don't know anything about you because I just kind of put a blank slate and I tried to do as much research as possible about you, and I generally enjoy the interaction with people without people's judgment because I know how much hurt that causes that someone when they're approached with that preconceived notion that you're not a good person.
Yeah.
Right? And then they're trying to tease things out of you. You're like, dude, like, what are you trying to do?
Yeah.
Right? So that's where my mainframe came from. So I'm totally blank slate. That's what I do. And that's because my experience. Now, it's funny how you said that you'd never want to go back to that dark place again. I mean, I'm sure a lot of us have been through dark places. I myself have been through quite a few. But don't you think that is what made you to be that person today? I know it's cliche. It's cliche, but if you didn't experience that, then you'd be secure, right? You'd have people around you. You wouldn't have that feeling where you have nothing to lose.
I'm not saying that if I could go back, I wouldn't want to experience it. I'm just saying that the feeling at that time of being so out of it and so consumed in how could this person think that of me? Like I was sitting with this person 2 months ago and they've seen me cry and they've seen, how could that person turn around and stab me? And to be so consumed in that, that's what I'm saying that I would never want to go through.
I got you.
Because that's why I told you need to go back and reflect on the past to move forward because allowing myself to go back on the past and reflect on it got me to a point where I said, I will never, ever define myself by what people think of me again.
Excellent.
That's it.
Excellent.
So I never want to go back to that place where I'm not falling asleep and I'm not eating and I'm not breathing just because someone said something about me.
And how do you ensure you don't go back to that?
It's constant work on me defining my own self through my own eyes before I define myself through someone else's eyes.
And how do you do that?
I'm always mindful. Like I'll catch myself sometimes, like, and saying, oh, we all go through this. Like, I wonder what that person thinks of me. And then I'm like, no. It doesn't matter what that person thinks of you. You have to, what do you think of yourself? Did you say something wrong? No. Were you not yourself? No. Then you're good. Don't worry. If they don't like you, then they don't like you. You're not going to change yourself to get liked by them, Yeah.
Okay.
It's always being mindful and repeating certain things to myself on a daily basis, which take different forms. I don't have one line that I say to myself, but I always remind myself that
You mean affirmations?
The me, yeah. The me that I am is good enough, and not even like good enough. What does that even mean? Like, I'm good, you know. I don't need someone to welcome me into their life for me to be okay, or for me to be worthy of being okay. I repeat those things to myself on a daily basis, and I repeat what I have to repeat to myself based on what I'm going through on a daily basis, and that alone serves as this it serves as
encouragement, no?
Encouragement and a self-affirmation instead of a self-fulfilling affirmation instead of it being derived from the outer world. Yeah. I
think you nailed it though when you said that you said you don't give a crap about other people's opinions, and you're not concerned about what they think.
No.
I think those are the two ingredients that you actually need in order for you to do whatever it is you want to do.
Yeah.
Because when your back is against the wall, that is the only mind frame you have.
Yeah.
But when you have a lot of things to lose, then you start to think about, what is this person going to think?
Well, I went from having everything to losing everything all at once, losing a lot of people all at once, and that was quite the experience, because it was kind of like I had this blank slate where I could now say, I choose to welcome you into my life. Like, you're no longer this stagnant thing that was just there, and I accepted leaving you in my life because I was too afraid of losing you, because I'm too afraid of what people think of me and people not thinking that I deserve to be in their lives. And there were many people. Like, I was in a bunch of WhatsApp groups, like group messages, and that I removed myself from, and that was such a relief for me, because I was sick and tired of this meaningless, I'm in your life.
Yeah.
But what does that mean?
Right.
Like, why didn't you reach out to me when you saw that my name was plastered all over the media, when you knew I was going through a hard time? And here you are messaging about something that completely isn't related to me, and everybody's just talking about this thing, and I'm like, do you not see me? And so the process of cleansing, even though I lost many people all at once, it really got me thinking of, why did I even think that these people added any kind of value in my life in the first place? And why was it important to me that I'm part of that group, for example? Is it that I wanted to be part of that group because it added value to my life, or is it because it somehow proved to me that I deserve to belong somewhere? You know?
Yeah.
So going from, you know, the image of having it all to not having it all at once was
almost overnight.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the moment I hit enter on the story was like, but when I think back to it, I think I lost a lot of people in the soul sense, or maybe never had them that way. But this was like a kind of like spring cleaning.
Right.
Yeah. You say, you don't belong in my life.
You get rid of the things you don't use and you don't need.
And I think it's because I had shared the story at that point, I for a while thought they let go of me because I shared this, but really they'd let go of me a long time ago, because you don't let go of someone in a moment, right?